morning. Hi, this is Warren Redlick. I am really excited to talk about the Tesla quarter two earnings call. This is going to be a really fun day. I'm going to wait for a few people to get on before I really get into it. But what's coming up today at 5:30 p.m. East Coast time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, Tesla will make its earnings announcement and have its earnings call. A lot of people think, myself included, that Tesla will announce a quarterly profit. So there's a few things I'm going to talk about in this call. First of all, what's likely to happen in the earnings call, why it matters, what's going to happen as a result of that earnings call. There's a lot of different factors, and mainly I'm hoping to get some response. If you're watching, please comment in the live chat, and we'll try to talk about some questions rather than just me talking. Let's have some back and forth. And then what I really want to focus on, we like a lot of people get excited about short-term daily stock price movements. People get excited about um, a lot of different things related to Tesla. But and by the way, if you can hear me, please just say you can hear me. I always worry about my sound. If the sound is okay, please tell me. If it's not okay, please tell me. Um, excuse me. So um, the long term. Thank you, Lev. So the long term issue, the big thing I want to talk about later in the live stream is the long term future of Tesla and how great it's going to be for our future. Tesla is making huge changes in our world, just the same way that the smartphone changed our world, the way that the car changed our world. We're going to see massive change in how we live our lives. But let's start with this. Sorry. Let's start with this. It now looks like, thank you, Lev. It now looks like Tesla may report a profit. It could be a small loss. There's a lot of people with a lot of different ideas. I think it's pretty likely they're going to report a profit. The um, the vehicle delivery numbers that were announced a few weeks ago, I think it was over 90,000 vehicles. That is a level where Tesla would normally report a profit. It's going to be in a really unusual quarter. How much time to report? The report is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. East Coast time. There's an earnings call. I will be watching or listening to that live. If you go to the Tesla Investor Relations website, the Investor Relations section, if you just Google Tesla Investor Relations, there's a way to listen live to that earnings call. 5:30 p.m. East Coast time, 2:30 Pacific time, California time. Um, so the 90,000 vehicle deliveries is a really good sign for a profit this quarter. Anything could happen. It's a crazy quarter. There were a lot of different things. There may have been some COVID related expenses. There may have been some COVID related reductions in expenses. If Tesla had to send people home, it may be that they didn't pay some people and those people got unemployment instead, and they may have saved money on labor. We don't know. I would expect. Troy, we'll talk about Gigafactory Shanghai later. That's a good question. If you don't mind asking me again later in this live stream, we'll talk about that. The oh man, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. We don't know what the one-off effects are of the COVID-19 crisis, how that impacted Tesla's expenses. It may be that they had unusual expenses for the quarter, and that would shift them into a loss instead of a profit. There's a lot of different factors. There's deferred revenue recognition. Tesla sells the full self-driving package, and every quarter as the full self-driving improves, they're able to recognize revenue. This is an accounting thing. They already have the money, but this is an accounting thing that affects what the profit will be reported. Look here. Taking a profit is a compass heading swing of the needle in a positive production direction. So I've heard different forecasts of whether there'll be a profit or a loss. Even if there's a small loss, it's really not very important. I don't really worry about. I'm fascinated by it, but I don't really worry about quarterly earnings. I really think about what's the long-term prospects, and I think they're great. So whether Tesla reports are a profit or a loss this quarter, I don't think it's a huge deal, as long as it's not a big loss, which seems very unlikely. I think Elon has dropped a lot of hints. There's been a lot of other things that suggest they're going to report a profit this quarter. So let's talk about why in the short term the profit matters. The S&P 500 is an index of the biggest 500 companies in U.S. stocks and big publicly traded U.S. companies in the U.S. stock market. And Tesla is not in the S&P 500 yet, which is odd because Tesla is roughly the 15th largest company in the United States, maybe approaching 10th. I forget where they rank exactly. The market capitalization of Tesla is so high, and normally the 500 companies in the S&P 500 includes normally the 500 companies in the S&P 500 include the largest companies, but Tesla's not in. S&P 500 has these inclusion criteria, and one of the criteria that has been holding Tesla back from inclusion is, first of all, you need a profit for the previous 12 months, which Tesla, unless Tesla has a massive loss this quarter, they will have sustained a profit over a period of 12 months. And you have to have had a profit in your most recent quarter. So if they report a profit, that means they will get S&P 500 inclusion. The S&P 500 will have to, Standard & Poor's will have to include Tesla in the S&P 500. It would be hard to justify not doing it. That matters because there are a lot of there's a lot of mutual funds and exchange traded funds that have an index strategy where they have committed to holding to tracking the S&P 500 index, or sometimes larger indexes that would also have to include Tesla. And there are other funds that try to match the S&P 500 performance, and so it's wise to have the large stocks in the S&P 500 in your fund if you're trying to match the S&P 500 performance. The problem, I guess the big thing that would happen in the short term for Tesla's share price is this would spike demand for Tesla stock. I'm amazed. Thank you for all the comments. I'm not going to be able to look at all these right away. I'm going to finish a key point here, and then I'll look at the comments. There are these large index funds, and I hold, just to be clear, I am a Tesla shareholder. I have far too much Tesla stock for my own good, so I am very positive on. I'm not really worried about short-term swings. I don't plan on selling for 10 years. My Tesla stock is in a retirement fund, and I don't retire for 10 years. I'm not eligible, but there's about 185,000, somewhere less than 200 million shares of Tesla in the world. Maybe, I think the float's 180 million. Somebody says there's 147 million, whatever. I think there's 180 million or so shares. Elon Musk holds over 20% of those shares. Crazy people like me hold a lot of shares of Tesla stock. So there's a limited amount of supply of Tesla stock available for these index funds to buy, and they have to buy a lot of it because they're very, very large funds, and they have to buy in proportion to where Tesla will be in the S&P 500 index, and they're going to be ballpark 1% of the S&P 500 value. So it means these funds have to spend a lot of money buying stock, and that increases. So demand for the stock goes up. Supply of the stock, people who are willing to sell the stock is pretty fixed. There's a small group of shareholders who are willing to sell. There's a bunch of crazies like me who won't sell. Elon's not selling. I don't think Larry Ellison, for those who don't know, he's on Tesla's board. He is the CEO and founder of Oracle Corporation. He's a multi-billionaire. I don't think he's worth as much as Elon anymore, but he's a very, very, very wealthy man. And he owns about $3 billion of Tesla stock. So I don't think he's selling. There's a lot of people who aren't selling. So there's this limited supply, and there's going to be a spike in demand. And when you have a rapid increase in demand with a no change in supply, you see prices go up. Some people will start to sell more as prices go up. Some people, like ARK Invest, has to rebalance. They have a commitment in their fund to not be too much overweight in one stock. And if Tesla exceeds 10% of their holdings, they have to sell some. If I were rational, I'm sorry I'm not, but if I were rational, I would probably sell some Tesla stock because it's become by far the largest stock in my portfolio, and it's not necessarily wise to hold that much. So that's the big impact of a profit report, is we will know Tesla will be included in the S&P 500, and that means that there will be this big spike in demand for the stock without an increase in supply of the stock, and that will spike the price. And so the price is currently trading around $1,500 a share. I didn't check this morning what the pre-market or early morning share price was. I'm not really worried about that, but whatever the price is, if that fact becomes if that becomes a fact, that it's a profit and it's going to be S&P 500 inclusion, that would spike the share price. And it might go to 1,800, it might go to 2,000, it might go to 2,500. I'm not going to predict that. Personally, I don't think the short-term share price is important. It's not important to me because I'm holding my stock for 10 years. So what happens today, tomorrow, next month, next year, really doesn't matter a lot in terms of share price. What I care about is what happens with the company. So let's look at some of these questions. Won't matter in the long run, be nice. Stock is to go up to 2,300. Really hard to predict what the number would be if it gets S&P 500 inclusion. Index funds need to buy about 26 million shares. So Oliver Quinn says index funds need to buy about 26 million shares. It's an interesting question. As Tesla's share price goes up, it increases the amount of value of Tesla shares they have to buy. I'm not sure if it increases the number of shares they have to buy, but increases the dollar value that they have to buy. So that's kind of an interesting perverse scenario, is that the more it goes up, the more they have to spend buying it. Really, really interesting detail. Only 38 shares. Yeah, and my theory, just so people, if you don't follow this channel, and I'm working on a video about this, I think Tesla's going to 100,000. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I know people think I'm crazy. I've got a video I'm working on where I'm going to explain why. But in short, if you look at 2030, if you look at Tesla's likely vehicle production increasing ballpark 50% a year over the next 10 years, you're going to see Tesla producing tens of millions of vehicles by 2030. And then you look at how Tesla's going to make their money. It's not going to be selling vehicles. Tesla is going to make its money by the robo-taxi network. That you make a Tesla Model 3, let's say, it costs Tesla $25,000 to make a Tesla Model 3 robo-taxi. It operates for 1 million miles. It earns $1 a mile for 600,000 miles, right? It doesn't earn $1 for every mile it drives, but it earns for 50, 60% of the miles it drives. That's $600,000 in revenue for a $25,000 production. And you add that's over, let's say, a 10-year span. It probably still has a residual value at the end of 10 years, although technology may advance so much it won't. But that $25,000 is trivial. The cost per mile is going to be in the ballpark of 15 cents a mile over that 10 years, including that $25,000 cost. So that's 85 cents a mile times $600,000. Tesla's going to make $500,000 in profit over a 10-year period on each vehicle it produces. So if they make 10 million vehicles in 1 year that are going to produce $50,000 in profit a year, that's $500 billion in profit for that one, or maybe it's 5 trillion. It's some ridiculous amount of profit. I think it's 500 billion just for that 1 year of production. You add up all the years of production of robotaxi, that's where the money is. But you're going to see massive, massive change. I don't think it's about Tesla Energy. I think Tesla Energy is a great thing. Tesla Solar, Tesla Battery, Megapacks, the battery installations, those are all great things that are going to make our society better. But I don't think those are the profit generators that the robotaxi network is. Will I do more videos on Starship? Yes, I will definitely do. I already did a video on Starship point-to-point. I don't know that I have more to say about that. I do think I'm likely to do a video on Starship. This is a question from Haruspex. I do think that I'm going to do a video on Starship later, but let's stay with Tesla today. Just so people know, coming up, I want to do a video about why I think Tesla will go to $100,000 a share in 2030. I will do a video about, and it has to do with the profits and then the price earnings ratio. Tesla, we'll talk about that. I'm going to do a video about what I think Tesla's going to come out with a mini bus, although I'm confused because this morning or last night, Elon tweeted something about individualized mass transit. I don't know if in the master plan part 2, they talked about some kind of high density vehicle replacing buses. And I think they're probably looking at somewhere between 10 and 20 passenger minivan type thing with a lot of with high density seating, which could be very valuable, particularly in poor countries and for poor people in America and first world countries. Will they announce? Okay, so Nick asks, what will they announce? Let's talk about this Q2 earnings call. Nick Whitehead asks, will they announce autonomy by year-end level 5? I don't think so. I think they will discuss that they expect to be feature complete by the end of the year, but feature complete doesn't mean it's working. feature complete means the hardware is ready, the software is ready, but it has to learn. There's a learning curve for the software. By going to 3D or 4D labeling, as Elon just mentioned, I don't know if he was kidding, they're going to rapidly increase, and with Dojo coming online soon, it's going to rapidly increase the rate at which the software learns to drive, and that will drive Robotaxi, but I don't think it's the end of the year. Where can you view the Q2 live earnings later? If you go to the Tesla website, there should be an investor relations page, and there is a link to where you can watch it's going to be 5:30 p.m. East Coast time, US, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and you can listen to it live. I think it's the Tesla Investor Relations website. FSD is critical, will push Tesla into the trillions. I agree, Zoe, that it will push in the trillions. They will announce $420.69 profit. No, I don't think so, but it's funny. 2:30 is Pacific time. 5:30 is East Coast US time. I don't know European times to answer that. Yeah, Jim, I agree. $100,000 a share is a best case scenario. I'm thinking 2030, Jim, that it will be $100,000 a share then. Clean Technica does a great YouTube stream. That's a good thought. Look for that. Look for Clean Technica to see if they're streaming it on YouTube. I was thinking about trying to set that up, but I don't know if I have the technical chops to do it. Right, the Tesla Investor Relations website is where you can do it. Hey, Boring Revolution, if you Boring Revolution did a live video this morning about the updates to the Boring Company FAQ. You stole my thunder. I'm doing a video about. I'm working on a video on that right now. Different takes. I'll mention your video and mine. Why would Tesla provide to the direction to their competitors on Battery Day? That's a good question, Husky Dog. Right, it's not 5:30 GMT. It's 5:30 Eastern time. So this is a great question. Tesla does a lot, gives a lot of information to competitors that other companies would not do. It's interesting that they do this. Battery Day will provide a lot of information to competitors. The reason is because they just, number one, it provides investors with more information about what's going. It provides positive feelings about the company, which I think is, I think the things like Battery Investor Day and Autonomy Day, I think those are really good for encouraging people to believe in Tesla as a company, to be more comfortable buying Tesla vehicles, to be more comfortable investing in Tesla stock. There's a vision here. Elon has a vision. Elon and the Tesla team, they have a vision about where Tesla is going. And I think, and the other thing is, it doesn't hurt Tesla because the competitors are so far behind. That's another video I'm working on. I'm working on what Tesla's moats are. They've got moats, they've got walls, they've got hills. There's lots of things that put Tesla way ahead of everyone else. And there's really little harm in telling others, here's what we're doing, because they're so far behind they can't catch up. And the other side of it is the market is so big that even if a competitor came along, Tesla just can't make enough batteries, just can't make enough vehicles to fill how big this market really is. How much does Elon pay me? Elon doesn't pay me anything, Stan. However, I am heavily invested in Tesla stock, and if Tesla stock goes up, that increases the value of my retirement portfolio. So Elon is not paying me a penny, but if Tesla stock goes up the way I think it's going to go, and I am openly admitting I am biased on this, if Tesla stock goes up, it makes me a wealthy man. I'm not poor. Don't get the sense that I'm poor. I'm not a poor guy anyway, but it will increase my wealth. You can't copy information. That's exactly the point, Zoe. Giving that information, number one, Elon wants somebody. If you think about it, sometimes having only one company in a market reduces the innovation. There's less drive to innovate. If another company comes along that seriously competes with Tesla, that helps drive the innovation. And the market is so big. There are so many internal combustion engine vehicles that are produced. There is so much need for transportation. And the changes that Tesla is delivering are going to lower the cost of vehicles. They're going to lower the cost per mile of transportation. We're going to see radical change. And there's just so much market for this. I'm not going to disclose the exact number of Tesla shares I own in Incantations. I own far more than I should. I own the equity in my house is worth more than my Tesla shares right now. I'll just say that. But not necessarily a whole lot more, but it's worth more. So I have a lot of Tesla stock. And if I didn't have much wealth, then owning 10 shares would be a lot. I own a lot more than 10 shares. This people don't appreciate how big this market is, because right now, let's take Americans. Americans spend about 60 cents a mile on transportation on their own vehicle, on average. Some people spend $1 a mile, some people spend 50 cents a mile or less, but on average, Americans spend in the ballpark of 60 cents a mile. And in Europe, it's probably similar. In Japan, it's probably similar. Australia, other places, it might be a little less. But anybody who owns a vehicle comparable to a Tesla that's not a Tesla is spending in the ballpark of 60 cents a mile on their transportation. Could be 50 cents, could be $1. Some people are spending more. There are poor people in the world who who can't afford the luxury and convenience that we get from owning our own cars. And what's going to happen is, and I'm talking about, they're very poor people, but there's also working class people in countries who can't afford to own a car. And they have to rely on public transit, and public transit is slow and inconvenient, and it's inexpensive, but maybe Tesla could deliver that less expensive than that, or provide so much more convenience that it would be worth them spending a little bit more money. So we tend to think of the market as, all right, there's this many vehicles produced a year, but that's not the market. The market is how much demand is there for transportation if Tesla and maybe others can lower the cost per mile of transportation. Think about it as transportation as a service, which is where I think Tesla is really going. That's what robotaxi is. Robotaxi is transportation as a service. Tesla is not a car company. And I'm going to say another thing here. Tesla, what's Ed's question? I don't know anything about Dyson, so I'm not going to comment on that. I don't have any opinions on Apple. The live earnings call will be on the Tesla Investor Relations website. And somebody said Clean Technica may live stream it on their YouTube channel. I don't want to get into Nikola Motors. So this market, so I think one of the things people talk about is Tesla a car company. Some people say, no, Tesla's not a car company. Tesla's a software company. One of my favorite thoughts about this is I do own stock in Honda Motors. I don't own a lot of stock in Honda Motors. I own a little stock in Honda Motors, but somebody once said to me that Honda is not a car company. Honda is an engine company. Think about it. Honda makes cars, Honda makes motorcycles, Honda makes lawnmowers, Honda makes boat engines. They make a jet. Honda makes all kinds of things that it puts engines in. So Tesla is really becoming a battery company. They are a battery company, and they're not really a vehicle company. They're a battery company, and they are a software company. It's really complex what Tesla is doing, but batteries are at the heart of this, and that's why Battery Day is so important. I want to talk about batteries in a minute, but let me just answer Chad's question. Were you surprised like me that Autonomy Day had nothing to impact valuation? Even today, there's very little confidence that FSD will be a big part of Tesla's future. It won't click until it happens. I completely agree with that, Chad. Wall Street investors and analysts are not looking at FSD at vehicle autonomy. They're not valuing it. They're not placing any value on it at all. They're either looking just at vehicle production. And I see it, honestly, a lot of Tesla fans will talk about, oh, look at the operating margins on the vehicles. If you're looking long-term at Tesla, the value is going to be in this transportation as a service thing. But there's a larger issue. This is where I want to get to. Honda makes electrical generators too, yes. So Chris asks, why am I so bullish when ARK Invest is, their golden goose price is $22,000 a share? I said this earlier, robotaxi is going to be so big, it's going to be amazing. Tesla is going to be making 10 million vehicles a year, not that far in the future. Each vehicle that they make is going to be generating $50,000 a year in profit on the robotaxi network. Down the road, the robotaxi network will become so large and it will eventually satisfy market demand, and the price per mile will come down. The cost per mile will also come down, but the profit per vehicle will come down. But there's a span of 5 or 10 years where the price for a ride is going to be a buck a mile. And at 10 million vehicles making that's $50,000 a year for a vehicle that and profit for a vehicle that drives 100,000 miles in a year, gets 60,000 miles paid and paying 15 cents a mile. It's in the ballpark of $50,000 a year. You multiply that by 10 million vehicles and you got $500 billion in profit. You realize that it's not just the 10 million vehicles made that year, it's all the vehicles made in the years before. And you realize that you got 50% growth, and you're talking about a price earnings ratio of 30 or 40 on profits of hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and you've got a $5 or $10 trillion company. That's how insane this is, and people aren't valuing that. So, Chris, I hope I answered your question. I think I'm talking 2030, not 2025. I think 2025, we're probably talking about $25,000 share price, but we'll see. And they don't need to worry about selling to a consumer. They need to sell rides to consumers. But I want to get back to this battery point. This is where I think the big thing is. This is why Battery Day matters so much. Tesla is obviously gearing up to ramp up battery production, planning to expand Giga Berlin to 2 million cars a year. Most likely, Giga Shanghai will be producing 2 million vehicles a year. Giga Texas or Giga Tulsa, wherever they build it, they're going to be wherever they build it. We're going to be talking about they're going to be producing 6 million cars a year just out of 3 factories, and they're going to build more factories. I think there might be a Giga Texas and a Giga Tulsa. The Giga Texas will build Cybertruck, and Giga Tulsa will build Model Y, and there's going to be new models coming in the future. How many hours? Tesla earnings will be reported at 5:30 p.m. East Coast U.S. time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, California time. In EU is higher. Tesla is an energy. So I'm advancing the theory that Tesla is a battery company, and as battery production ramps up, that enables the vehicle production. It enables Tesla energy, Tesla solar, Tesla battery, grid backup, those kinds of things. And the more batteries they make, the more money they can make. And one of the things that I think we tend to think about, how much money are they making per vehicle? What's the profit per vehicle? What if we looked at it in terms of batteries? What is the profit per kilowatt hour of batteries produced? This, I think, is where Tesla is heading. Not this year, not next year, but by 2025, we're going to see this change. I believe, and this is one of my radical views that I think people are uncomfortable with, and a lot of people disagree with me on. Tesla will eventually shift to smaller vehicles, 1 and 2 passenger vehicles, with smaller battery packs with fewer kilowatt hours, because the goal is ultimately going to be, if you're a battery company, the software enables this, by the way. They're a software company too, but the software is enabling profit on batteries. So now, if you're going to make 2 terawatt hours of batteries, which is Elon's stated goal, to get to 2 terawatt hours of batteries, how much money can you make per kilowatt hour, per megawatt hour? And if you put 50 or 75 kilowatt hours of batteries into a Tesla Model 3, that most of the time is carrying one person, one passenger, you're not making as much money per kilowatt hour as if you put 25 kilowatt hour batteries into a smaller vehicle, or 10 kilowatt hours into a single passenger vehicle. You're making more money per kilowatt hour. If the ultimate constraint, I believe the ultimate constraint facing Tesla is batteries. Until Tesla is able to make enough batteries, they will always be battery constrained. And I think they're going to be battery constrained as far as the eye can see, because it's just going to be that hard to make that many batteries. And so the question is, that's the ultimate limit. So how much can you make per kilowatt hour? You're dependent on the storage production, not on their tech. I'm just going to read some questions here. Thank you, G Mullet, for your comment. You see Tesla going into heavy-duty vehicles such as construction? Harospecs asks. I don't know. I think that may not require so much autonomy for construction vehicles. That's a great question, Harospecs. I don't know how big that market is. I don't think that's low-hanging fruit. I think Tesla's going to go for what's most obvious first. They have a plan. I've never seen them talking about construction equipment. Obviously, Boring Company is doing something related to that, but that's not really construction. No way for ICE car to robotically fill up with gas at this time. Robotic recharging is something Elon has said that's easy to do. It probably would be relatively easy to create a robotic gas station to fill up a gas car. I just think ICE cars are dead. This is another thing that I think people don't get. There's why Tesla matters for why Tesla's stock is going to go up. And I'm sorry, I'm wearing a Volkswagen t-shirt. That's for Ross Gerber. That's I still like other car companies. I've been an Audi fan for years. I love Honda. I think other car companies have done great things. I just think they're dead in the water. Their long-term future is dead. And the reason people don't get this is, yes, Chad, I am super bullish. I get that. I am a super bull. I am crazy. I know people think I'm crazy. When I do my video explaining why the valuation is going to be $100,000 a share in 2030, you'll see it. So the biggest thing about robotaxi that people don't get is the devastation it will cause for the current legacy internal combustion engine car manufacturers. Tesla is already wreaking havoc because every vehicle they sell is a vehicle BMW doesn't sell or a vehicle Honda or Toyota doesn't sell. That's already, the reality, and they're reducing their sales, and these companies have built themselves up on debt. That debt was predicated on selling more vehicles, and as Tesla cuts into their market share, it makes it very, very difficult for these companies to survive. But the robo-taxi network is going to just clobber them, because once you have robo-taxis, every robo-taxi replaces 5 to 10 vehicles. Because the average ICE vehicle is on the road for maybe an hour or two a day. Maybe let's say it's 2 hours. If you're conservative, you say it replaces 5 vehicles. So when Tesla makes 1 million robo-taxis, that cuts into 5 million ICE vehicles. When they make 2 million robo-taxis, it eliminates 10 million ICE vehicle sales. And the legacy automakers will collapse. So I'll be very blunt. I don't hold shares in, other than Honda, I own shares in Honda. Honda is more insulated from all this. I only own a little bit of Honda. Honda's more insulated because they make so many things that aren't cars. Tesla hasn't talked about electric motorcycles yet. Honda makes lawnmowers. I don't know how soon. Tesla's not going to jump into electric lawnmowers, boat engines. There's a lot of things. It'll come for them too eventually, but that's further down the road. But the standard car companies that don't do anything but cars, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, whatever Chrysler's called these days, Mercedes-Benz, most of these companies don't make a whole lot else. And they're just dead because they're going to be like devastated. What's ICE vehicle? ICE vehicle, ICE, ICE stands for internal combustion engine. Let's see, you're correct about transportation demand. And because of FSD, there will be less car sales in the long run. Exactly. And this is another controversial thing. I have a video on this if you check my channel. I believe Tesla's going to stop selling cars. I don't want to say absolutely no cars. I think they're going to continue selling the Roadster and the Plaid Model S to rich people. But Tesla is going to make so much profit on each vehicle in the robo-taxi network that they would have to sell you a Model 3 for $300,000. And you're not going to pay $300,000 to have a vehicle sitting in your garage for 22 hours a day. That you're only going to drive 2 hours a day. It doesn't make sense to own a vehicle. There's a certain limited audience. They will probably sell Cybertrucks to contractors. My guess is a lot of current day contractors will continue driving internal combustion engine pickup trucks because they won't be able to afford to buy a Cybertruck, and because they're going to need something that holds their stuff and they take it with them. So there are segments where internal combustion engine will survive, but they're very limited. Invested so much in their Ford Bronco, no electric version. I'm just looking at questions now. Legacy OEMs will do more consolidation. I don't think consolidation is enough for them, Chris. I think their market is going to be devastated. I don't know what are they going to consolidate their debt? Volkswagen owes like $200 billion in debt. I think they're going to file for bankruptcy, and I think several legacy internal combustion engine manufacturers, car manufacturers, will file for bankruptcy, and then some vultures. I don't mean vultures. That's not a nice term for it, but some investors will find ways of picking up some pieces of what's left of the internal combustion engine capital investment, whatever capitals there, factories and other things that they have, and find ways of repurposing that. But it's going to be devastating. I'm excited to see, Harrespec says, I'm excited to see how Dojo will improve in the advancement of FSD. Yeah, Elon talked about Dojo recently. I think it was in that speech to organization in China. And it looks like Dojo's making progress. It was some really interesting details there about it being, I think it was 16-point floating point or 32-bit floating point. Really interesting what chip they're doing. There's issues with managing heat in the Dojo computer. We'll see where that goes. I'm hoping they talk more about that in the future. If Tesla will be selling miles, have you framed your long-term revenue estimate around global miles traveled and Tesla's potential? Can anybody hear me? Hello, hello, hello. For those if anybody's still watching, I had a power